today we're continuing talking about the Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise, and this is actually the last film that's in the series so far. But hopefully they make other ones, and also after this, I'm gonna rewatch another franchise. So if you guys have any recommendations or anything, just leave it in the comments down below. But anyway, today I'm gonna be talking about the 2017 Joachim Rønning and Espen Sandberg film. I probably just messed up their names completely, but this is Pirates of the Caribbean: Salazar's Revenge. I also do want to say quickly, I think in other countries, maybe America or something, that this film is called Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man Tells No Tales, but in the UK, which is where I am, it's called Salazar's Revenge. So that's what I'm going to call it anyway. But starting off with the positives, I thought that the main actors that are in this franchise throughout, Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, Geoffrey Rush as Barbossa, were just brilliant in this film. In this one particular, Johnny Depp is definitely the star performer. I mean, he is really in the entire franchise. Like, Jack Sparrow is the main character. He's the one that everyone looks at, and he's just brilliant, really. I thought that it was cool how we also got to see some new characters. We got Henry Turner, who we find out is the son of Will and Elizabeth. But I thought it was a bit weird because this film couldn't have been, set too many years after On Stranger Tides. But Henry, the character, seems about 25. And we actually do see Elizabeth and Will at the end of this film. And I think it's weird for them to have such an old child. And even the actors, like Keira Knightley, who plays, his mum, is only actually 5 years older than the actor who plays her son, which is a bit strange. And then we do have a new character called Corinna, who we find out is actually Barbossa's daughter, which is quite interesting. Obviously, Barbossa kind of left, classic Barbossa, I guess. I think, yet again, the story is quite clear in this film. How Henry is going to save his father, Will, by turning in the trident, and then Jack Sparrow and Barbossa are helping them. But then, there's obviously Salazar and his dead crew that are trying to get there as well. Obviously the villains in this film. Speaking of Salazar, I thought he was quite an interesting villain. To be honest, I do like him. I think he's a good villain in this film. But compared to the previous villains we've had in this franchise, Blackbeard, Barbossa, Davy Jones, he definitely isn't as good as those. Although I thought Javier Bardem played him very well. He's a brilliant actor. I've seen him in a lot of films before. Obviously, I think you guys would agree with me. The saddest part of this film is when, Barbossa died. He's someone who's been in every single film, even Dead Man's Chest, even though he wasn't in that one too much. But I thought it was quite sad because obviously in that film we find out he's got a daughter, so, he's got a bit of a family. But it did make it a better ending, more emotional, more gripping to watch. Another thing I want to say, which was just brilliant, is Paul McCartney from the Beatles, who you guys might be able to tell that I do love, had a little cameo in this film. He plays a character called Uncle Jack, and he's in prison singing a Beatles song. And it's not a very well known one, but I heard this being a big fan. And I noticed it, and I was like, what? And then it's Paul McCartney, in all the pirate outfit, and it looks so cool. And another cool thing is I'm guessing he's actually Keith Richards' character's brother, because obviously it's Uncle Jack, and Keith Richards is Jack Sparrow's dad. A bit confusing. I thought this was a brilliant thing to add. Obviously, he's not a main character, but it's just a really cool thing to add, I thought, in this film. We also have a great scene where the crew save Jack and Corinna from being publicly executed. This is just after we see the bit with Paul McCartney. And there's a bit where it's quite intense because the saw is Jack's spinning around, and the saw is moving up and down, closer to cutting his head off, which is just really intense. Obviously, brilliant music, amazing score in this film. We have it in all the Pirates of the Caribbean films. I'm sure you guys, you guys like the Pirates of the Caribbean score. They're just brilliant. I thought that in this film especially, the CGI stood out. Obviously, this is the newest film in the franchise, so you would think the CGI is, the best, more up to date. But Salazar and all the dead crew, they look so cool. Their heads are floating, and the way they move, it's just really well done, I thought. Moving on to the negatives, I think it is a bit strange how we see Will Turner right at the start of this movie, and then not again until right at the end. Because, when you look up this film, I looked up the cast beforehand, and Will and Elizabeth are right at the top, like they were in the previous films. I was like, oh, they're going to be main characters. But we only see them at the end, which is a bit strange, and we see Will at the start, but we see Elizabeth at the end. And I thought it was good that we see them, but I think it would be good if they were more prominent characters like they were in the first three films. Then there was a scene which I just didn't like, where Jack gets tied up and he's like getting forced to marry this woman, and Jack clearly knew her like brother or something. And it was a bit pointless. And one thing, there was just a real lack of sword fights in this film. It was a bit disappointing. I liked how Salazar's like dead man ship, it like went and it took over other ships. It kind of like went over it, which was quite frightening. But there wasn't much fighting really. There was a lot of death and like executions and stuff, but not much fighting, because obviously in the previous films we've had a lot of, you know, really intense fights and stuff that go on for ages. And also something that I didn't really like, there was a few like sexual jokes, mainly from Jack, and about Karina talking about them to Henry Turner, which I just didn't like. I thought the script with this part were just not very good. It was a bit strange to hear them. And they had them in like previous films, but it was like one time. It wasn't like all the time. There was probably like 4 or 5 maybe, I think. But overall, I would say this film is probably, as a film, on the same levels on Swing Your Tides, maybe a little bit worse in my opinion. I would have to give this about a 6.5 out of 10. It was good. I enjoyed it. But again, I think like the first 3 films in this are really good. Well, the first 2 are really good. Our World's End is quite good, and then the last 2 aren't as good. But I still did enjoy them. But yeah, this is the last film in, you know, the iconic Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I've really liked, you know, rewatching all these films. You know, I hope you guys enjoyed me doing this. You know, if you want me to see any franchises you guys like that I might not have seen, just let me know in the comments down below. But what did you guys think of Pirates of the Caribbean Salazar's Revenge? Let us know down below, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.